Hello there people, this is Bruce Be Cool or Nintendo, and I have another deck recipe to show you on Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Decade Duels for the Xbox 360. Now, I actually dedicate this video to the YouTube user Froste. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's a lovely TEH at the end. So yeah, you know, he had a few questions about the Dark-world deck and whatnot, and although this isn't the usual style you would go for, this is my little spin on one. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope it helps you guys out with a Dark-world deck and at least getting the basics. Now, there's actually quite a lot of ground to cover with this deck because it does have quite a few weaknesses. Dark-world decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds have a few weaknesses because all the cards aren't really here. So hopefully with this deck I'll show you, some of those weaknesses and how to cover them as well. So for now, let's do the usual thing. Let's go through the monsters, then the spells, then the traps, and we'll cover combos and stuff along the way. So first things first, I've actually got two Blackwing Gale Whirlwind in here. Now, he's mainly there to cut the attack of other monsters. Yes, it's nice he's a tuner, and believe it or not, you're going to do quite a bit of that when you get him. But because the highest Dark-world monster is 2300 attack, that's not going to stand up to much. That's not even going to stand up to Monarchs, just the basic attack, let alone the effects. So this is here to cut the attack, tune, and maybe even be tribute fodder for the Dark-world guys if needs be. So yep, run two of those. Two Bron Mad King of Dark-world. His effect is lovely, his attack isn't too bad either, 1800, and his effect is if you cause any battle damage you could choose to select a card in your hand and discard it, and that is your choice. So what you would do more often than not is get rid of gold or, well, any other Dark-world monster. Just don't get rid of the other Bron Mad King of Dark-world, because unlike the other monsters, he can't resurrect himself from the graveyard or have any other effect from doing that. So yeah, I only run two of those. Three is okay, just purely for the fact it's 1800 attack, but there's not enough Dark-world monsters really to get good use of its effects. One Cyber Dragon. Quite nice for tuning with, again special summoning, etc, etc, you know how Cyber Dragon works. A Dark Arm Dragon. Now, I've only decided to mess around with this recently, and it actually works quite well in a Dark-world deck. Obviously everything's going to be Darks, and yeah, even if you have other Dark monsters in the graveyard, more than 3 of them, then you can still use it for things like Allure of Darkness. You've got things like Card Destruction and Morphing Jar to get rid of it, so if it is a dead card, then whatever, you can get rid of it still. Now, something else in here as well is I've also got Necro-Valley, which for those of you guys that don't know, that stops you and your opponent from removing cards from the graveyard to out of play. So you're probably wondering why this card is in the deck, but even if Necro-Valley is on the field, you can still special summon him, 2800 attack, and for a special summon, it's well worth it. Otherwise, if you got Necro-Valley and this in your hand, then hold off the Necro-Valley a second, play Dark Arm Dragon, and then use it. It's beautiful. 3 gold Woolord of... Bleh? What was that? 3 gold Woolord of Dark-world. God, what's a Wooloo? Anyway, lovely little effect. This is one of the monsters that, when discarded, it's special summoned. But if it's discarded from your opponent's card effect, then you can choose up to 2 cards on the field, and 2 of your opponent's cards on the field, and destroy them. So yet no danger of you having to destroy your own cards. Lovely little card. Yes, 2300 attack, but hey, with Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind, you can get Stardust Dragon out of it, and there is a Plague Spreader Zombie in here as well, so you can blow up the field with Black Rose Dragon if needs be. 1 Gauze. Again, it could be a dead card if Necro-Valley is on your side of the field, but it can be got rid of in other ways. Otherwise, you know what Gauze does. Lovely little game changer, that one. 2 Gren Tactician of Dark-world. If it's discarded, then yeah, you blow up a spell or trap on the field. Now bear in mind, this is a mandatory effect, so if your opponent doesn't have any spell or trap cards on the field, you're going to have to blow up one of your own, so do be careful with that. That also goes with Kaki Gorilla of Dark-world. Yeah, basically that's for monsters instead. Now, I'm gonna say something here. I'm not entirely certain how some of the chains work, but basically if you've got rid of khaki while getting rid of gold, and you'll soon see silver, it will all chain up together. Now, in that chain, khaki doesn't get rid of those special summoned monsters no matter what happens, which is quite nice. So yeah, do remember that. Otherwise, it will get rid of your own monster if your opponent does have any other monsters. Whew, God, that's a bit of a difficult explanation there, but just as long as you remember that you're going to have to get rid of a card regardless if you use these effects, then that's fine. Morphing Jar. Must have that in your Dark World deck. No matter what Dark World deck you play, you must have a Morphing Jar. This does class as discarding, so say if the rest of your hand is golds and khaki and gren, then you're going to be blowing up the field while special summoning. It's an absolute must, and you want to search for this card as soon as possible, whether it's through Sangan or Gold Sarcophagus. This is your #1 priority. One Plague Spreader Zombie. Now, even with Necro Valley out, you can still use its effect to, special summon itself from the graveyard again anyway, so do remember that. And again, it's there for tuning for, higher attack monsters. You're going to get Gores out of it, maybe even Armory Arm in the right circumstance, but again, you know how Plague Spreader Zombie works. Sangan, first priority, again, Morphing Jar. Otherwise, find something else. A Gale is usually good. And also, you notice there's quite a few low attack dark monsters here. There is a Crush Card Virus in here, so definitely plug that in as well. So yeah, you know how Sangan works. Now, only 2 Silver Warlord of Dark World. I find that if you have 3 of gold and 3 of silver, you're going to end up jamming your hand up more often than not. And I know it's only 1 card, but trust me, it does make a difference. And the reason I prefer gold over silver is not, your opponent isn't going to have 2 cards in their hand all the time. Basically, its effect, it's special summoned once it's discarded, or if your opponent discards it, then you're going to put 2 of their cards into their deck again from the bottom, into the bottom of the deck rather, which is quite nice. But like I say, it has to be 2 cards, so that's why I run only 2 of these, 2300 attack as well. 1 Spirit Reaper, you never know when you're going to need it. You might find that he'll save you quite a few times if your hand does get jammed up with rubbish. So yep, definitely have one of those. And that's it for the monsters. Now onto the spells. So Allure of Darkness, you're going to want to try and get rid of the other monsters like, I know it sounds crazy, but Gores or Dark Arm Dragon if they're dead in your hand. Otherwise, yep, if you feel like getting rid of Gren or Khaki, then go for it. Remember, this is removed from play, not discarding it, so you won't get the Dark World's effect. Card Destruction, another must. You'll find I've got 2 gold sarcophagus there. Let me start that again. Sorry, there's quite a lot in this deck, as you can understand. There's 2 gold sarcophaguses in here, so if you've found Morphing Jar with one of them, then Card Destruction is your second priority. And more often than not, what you're going to end up is using Morphing Jar's effect and Card Destruction's effect, and usually end up with an OTK. Amazing, you must run this card. Creature Swap. Now, this is where things get really good if you draw it. So, with Morphing Jar, if you can hold off using Morphing Jar to get Creature Swap, or vice versa, then, you swap Morphing Jar from your side of the field to your opponent's, and once that's flipped, that classes as your opponent's effect. So, more often than not, you're going to have silver and gold blowing up the field again. Absolutely amazing and devastating. Again, usually part of an OTK, which is really, really nice. Otherwise, it's extreme disruption for your opponent. Worst case scenario, if you've got a weak monster in your hand and your opponent's got high attack, like a Monarch or Dark Arm Dragon, etc, etc, you're going to want to creature swap that stuff. So yep, 2 of those. Only 1 Dark World Dealings. Now, you're probably going to notice with this and Dark World Lightning, why aren't you running 3 of these each, Bruce? You want to try and discard as much as possible. Don't worry, there is another card I'm going to show you which discards, and to be honest with you, sometimes just drawing isn't going to help. Dark World Dealings, each player draws 1 card and then each player discards a card. So yes, that could help your opponent, but if you're only running 1 of them, that's not going to affect things too much. And this is going to help you with a special summon or just some disruption with Gren or Khaki, which is quite nice. And Dark World Lightning, destroy any face down card. So that's a spell, trap or monster. And if you want to try and get one of your Dark Worlds effects going on, then you can even blow up one of your own if you really fancy, but you don't really want to be doing that. You want to try and disrupt your opponent as much as possible. You'll also find, I don't run a Mystical Space Typhoon in here either, because you've got these Dark World Lightnings, these Grens, etc, etc, so remember that. 2 gold sarcophagus, I've already gone through that. You know, first priority Morphing Jar, second priority card destruction. Otherwise, find things like Heavy Storm, Mirror Force, the Mass Destruction that you're going to want to need. Speaking of which, Heavy Storm, 2 Necro Valley, lovely card. As I've already explained, basically cards in either player's graveyard cannot be removed from play. That stops other people's Dark Armed Dragons, doing things like Chaos Sorcerer, which is quite nice. You know, not many people are expecting this, and the other effect is amazing as well. Negate the effects of spells, traps and effect monsters that target cards in either player's graveyard. So, Monster Reborn, I haven't tried it out yet, but I believe, what's his face, Gauze as well. Not Gauze, what am I talking about? I can't believe I've forgotten his name. The Synchro Monster anyway. I'll probably remember his name in a sec once I go through. But yeah, bearing in mind though that allows things like Sangan to still work, Plague Spreader Zombie, but other effects like Mizuki, etc, etc, yeah, Necro Valley's going to negate them, and there is a Terraforming search for that as well. And this is another card that you're going to love, Royal Tribute. Yes, it might be dead in your hand occasionally, but when Necro Valley's out on the field, then each player shows each other's hand. You discard all the monsters, and spells and traps stay in your hand. So, guess what you're going to do? You're going to end up disrupting your opponent's hand, and you're going to end up special summoning and blowing up lots of rubbish on the field. Yeah, only 2 of each though. Same with the Necro Valley, only 2 of those. Sorry, I said only 2 of each. That's a bit of a contradiction or incorrect sentence I've said. But yeah, with that Necro Valley, there is a Terraforming anyway. And I pick 1 Terraforming over having no Terraforming and 3 Necro Valley, because sometimes you're going to want to set cards. So for example, you set your Terraforming, you blow up a lot of stuff on the hand, field, whatever, and then you use it to find a Necro Valley. I hope that makes sense for you guys anyway. In terms of traps, not much here I'm afraid. Crush Card Virus, that's obvious what that does. A lot of disruption. Mirror Force, that's obvious as well. And 2 Solemn Judgments. You are going to end up using them, okay, because there's some summons you're going to want to stop. There's some destruction of your opponents you're going to want to stop. And you know what? I really cannot squeeze in a 3rd one. There's a lot of other destruction going on the field anyway, so 2 of this is quite fine, believe it or not. And that is the deck. So, like I say, the deck itself, low attack if you're just running on Dark World, so 2300, but then you've got things like Blackwing Gale, the Whirlwind to cut that attack of your opponents, Dark Armed Dragon to special summon, as well as Gauze to special summon. And remember, you're going to want to try and creature swap with the Morphing Jar and, you know, finish off the opponent there and then. Otherwise, your opponent's going to be crippled anyway, but yeah, try and finish him off. In the extra deck, this will be where I remember that Synchro Monster. So, Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, an Armory Arm, Black Rose Dragon, blah blah blah. That's the one, Goyo Guardian, yay! Oops. And yeah, Stardust Dragon. Remember, his effect works with Necro Valley as well, because it's not targeting anything in the graveyard. It's just an effect which works in the graveyard if you use it. Oh, dear me. Now, in the side deck, what cripples Dark World decks are removed from play. So I wouldn't usually suggest it, but Imperial Iron Wall. Yes, sometimes it's dead in your hand and sometimes you draw duplicates, but honestly, removal absolutely ruins Dark World decks. So have 3 of those in straight away. We've got 2 Mind Crush as well. You know, if you know what your opponent's got in your hand from Royal Tribute, or if you're just having a guess, then great. Otherwise, discard a random card. Hey, if you're going to have lots of Dark World in your hand anyway, then more often than not, you're going to have a special summon on your hands. There is an extra Solemn Judgment if you wanted, Torrential Tribute for Mass Destruction for the Swarms, Brain Control, and other Dark World Dealings and Dark World Lightning. I haven't had the use for them yet, but if you're up against a Staller, you never know. Also, something I haven't mentioned, the Dark World Lightning. If that is chained to, then you don't get to discard. So if someone uses an MST from you selecting it, then yeah, you don't get to discard. But hey, it's a 1-for-1. Giant Trinade, Lightning Vortex for the Swarmers, a Monster Reborn if you want to swap out your Necro Valleys and stuff. Mystical Space Typhoon, deck Devastation Virus if people are running like Blackwings and stuff like that. And that is about it. So that is quite a lot in this deck. This is as solid as I can get it, to be honest with you. If you guys want, I could probably make another Dark World deck concentrating on the forces of Dark World, Gateway to the Dark World, etc, etc. That stuff which relies on the graveyard. But this is the most solid deck that I think I've made of Dark World. So try it out. I hope you guys enjoy it. Very, very unique deck. And as always, if you do like it, give us a thumbs up or whatnot. And obviously any questions, because there's probably going to be quite a lot with this, then put it in the comment section below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And on that note, you guys take care, and I'll see you again soon.